What's up, your boy Vaughn with another reaction? What the hell is this title, gang? The NFL has an Epstein problem? Ain't the Giants owner on the Epstein files or some shit like that? I don't know, bro. By microphone, one of the goats of this football content creation. Let's get into it.
Shells in the
The
latest
NFL
release from
has
the
an
Jeffrey Epstein file.
Steve
problem.
Tisch, writing, "Is she a pro or civilian?" asked Epstein for details about a Ukrainian girl, prompting Epstein
Whoa. That's the Giants owner, right?
to
Yes.
reply that he does not like records of these conversations. We had a brief association.
The deal
Man, get your ass out of here, boy. Man, what he said?
Girl, prompting Epstein to reply that he does not like records of these conversations.
We had a brief association where we exchanged emails about adult women, and in addition, we discussed movies, philanthropy, and investments. Man, get out of here, nigga. Y'all was talking about little girls. Stop it.
We had a brief association.
The DOJ
Oh, that's
just dropped
co-owned.
over
He
3
co-owned.
million documents related to one of the most notorious figures in modern history. And buried in those files, mentioned over 440 times, is the name of an NFL team owner. I'm talking about detailed email exchanges. I'm talking about the co-owner of one of the most iconic franchises in professional football, the New York Giants, trading messages with Epstein about women, setting up meetings with women, and using language that'll make your jaw drop. And somehow the NFL is still figuring out whether or not they should investigate this. But here's what makes the story even crazier.
He's probably a rich Jew. They not doing nothing. Gang, they're not doing nothing. That's the whole problem with this Epstein shit. What they gonna do? They're not arresting nobody. It's a slap in all our face. They're not going to do nothing. It's nothing. No arrest is going to happen. No investigations. No nothing.
This is a guy who is worth an estimated $1.5 billion. The man who produced Forrest Gump, the only person alive with both an Oscar and a Super Bowl ring, and a guy who just weeks ago helped hire John Harbaugh as the Giants' new head coach. And now his name is all over the Epstein files. So I'm going to break down exactly what these emails say, what the NFL is doing about it, and why history tells us that the result of all of this is going to be very disappointing. I'm fully expecting this video to be demonetized, guys, so YouTube won't recommend it to new users. So to fight that, if you guys like this video, we could...
Well, I don't even gotta worry about no demonetization. I ain't even monetized yet. I ain't even worry about that.
potentially get it pushed out in the algorithm. And now with all that out of the way, let's get to
We already know you about to sponsor it. And he's sponsored by
today's video. Before we
DraftKings.
get into the emails themselves, you need to understand who Steve Tisch is. This isn't some low-profile guy that no one's ever heard of. Steve Tisch was born on February 14th, 1949, into one of the most powerful business families in America. His father, Preston...
Yup. These niggas, it's always these families, bro. These powerful ass families, bro. Niggas come from rich ass parents, bro. Always.
Tisch co-founded Lowe's Corporation and at one point even served as the United States Postmaster General under President Reagan. We're talking
Like, look at this game. Look at this man family, bro.
serious old money here, guys. The Tisch family's combined net worth is estimated around $10 billion. But Steve didn't just ride the family name. He went to Tufts University, got into filmmaking, and started producing movies. In 1983, he produced Risky Business, the film that made Tom Cruise a star. Then in 1994, he won the Academy Award for Best Picture for producing Forrest Gump, which grossed nearly $677 million.
God damn, talented ass family. Shit, I get a lot of family talented as hell. Damn.
He also produced American History X, Snatch, and The Pursuit of Happiness with Will Smith. The guy even has
Damn.
a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame and appeared on Shark Tank as a guest shark. Now on the football side, his father bought 50% of the New York Giants back in 1991. When his dad passed away in 2005, Steve took over as chairman and executive vice president. He shares ownership with John Mara, and together they oversaw the Giants winning Super Bowl 42 and Super Bowl 46, both of those legendary Eli Manning runs. He's literally the only person in history to have both an Oscar and a Super Bowl ring. So I'm not talking about some fringe figure here. This is NFL royalty, Hollywood royalty, American business royalty.
Is it just like when you become a billionaire, you become a pedo gang? Like, is that what it is? Like, you just hit a B and you just become a pedo? I don't want to be a billionaire. Well, I would never be that in my life. I would never be a pedo, but oh my gosh.
And now his name is popping up 440 times in the Epstein files. Now, for those of you guys that haven't been going down this bizarre rabbit hole like I have, let me explain how these documents even came out to begin with, because this has been a wild saga in of itself. For years, people have been demanding transparency about who was in Jeffrey.
Just look at this nigga. Like, I don't even like to look at, like, he just look evil, bro. Like, eyes tell a whole story. Tell the story right there. Like, just look at these niggas' eyes, bro.
Epstein's circle. For those of you guys who don't know, Epstein was a wealthy financier who was arrested in 2019 on federal charges related to child trafficking. He was found dead in his jail cell on August 10th, 2019. The medical examiner said that he took his own life, though it doesn't appear to be really likely that he did. And if you guys want to see how, CoffeeZilla has a great video on this. But back in 2008, Epstein had already been charged with soliciting a minor in Florida and had become a registered.
Yeah, just come out. Y'all killed that nigga, gang. Or he's still alive, bro. Just come out and say y'all killed that nigga, gang. Y'all went in that cell and blurt or did something to bro. Like, come on.
Offender. He served just 13 months of an 18-month sentence and somehow got back to living his life among the rich and powerful.
Like, gang, y'all might as well just expose all the secrets, government, because we don't trust y'all, gang. Like, people waking up, we do not trust y'all, gang. Like.
Associate Ghislaine Maxwell was convicted of related charges and is currently serving 20 years in prison. You fast forward to 2025 and Congress passed the Epstein Files Transparency Act, which was signed by President Trump on November 19th, 2025. The bill passed the House 470-1, with only one congressman voting against it, and man, that's gotta be the worst look of all time. This one congressman's like,
no, let's not release the files.
Well, the law required the Attorney General to release all unclassified records related to the Epstein investigation within 30 days, and the DOJ started releasing documents in batches starting in December, and by the end of January of 2026, over 3 million pages had been made public, which is kind of bizarre because Kash Patel literally went under oath and said that there was nothing in the files.
There is no...
That's a funny ass name, Kash Patel. Who named you that, gang? Why Obama named you that? Kash Patel.
credible information. None. If there were, I would bring the case yesterday.
But this is where Steve Tish's name came flying out. Let's get into what's actually in these emails, because this is where it gets uncomfortable. According to ESPN's reporting, which was first broken by The Athletic, most of the correspondence between Tish and Epstein dates back to around 2013. In one exchange from April of 2013, Epstein is literally setting Tish up with a woman named Katya. She emails Epstein saying she Googled Steve Tish, found out he's an Oscar-winning producer and Giants owner, and said she'd love to meet him. So Epstein's playing matchmaker here for a second. In another email from May of 2013, Tish sends an introductory message to a different woman, writing, "Jeffrey Epstein is very excited about you and I meeting each other. I like that idea. Do you?" Epstein then tells Tish that the woman is a microbiology major still in university and suggests that Tish should make it clear that he would organize her travel ticket. So pretty much Epstein is setting up a 76-year-old billionaire with someone that's still in university and is trying to get this 76-year-old billionaire to fly her out. And it gets even worse. In an email chain with the subject line, "Ukrainian girl," Tish writes to Epstein saying he had just had lunch with someone he met at Epstein's house. Epstein responds with extremely graphic physical descriptions of other women, and Tish responds by asking whether this woman is pro or civilian, which appears to be Tish asking whether this woman is an escort or not. And then there's even a follow-up email where Epstein writes back to Tish after one of these arranged meetings telling him, "You did very well," adding that the woman was a little freaked out by the age difference and instructing him to go slow, which is just so disgusting, bro. I mean, like, the fact that Epstein's like instructing him how to go about this and it's just so weird. Epstein also wrote that he tried to convince the woman not to return to Ukraine and that having her crying worked. And Tish's response is borderline sociopathic.
Bro, these niggas love these Ukrainian Russian girls, bro. And Russian, they got some beautiful women, I ain't gonna lie, but damn. Like Bill Gates, that nigga caught an STD messing with them, like, bro.
I mean, his response is, "Nice report, funny comment on crying." There are also emails showing that Tish...
It was Bill Gates or Bill Clinton they caught the STD. I don't know. I don't know. It was one of them niggas.
offered Epstein tickets to his suite at Giants games and invited him to attend other games during the season. Meanwhile, Epstein invited Tish to his private island in the Caribbean. And at one point, Epstein sent Tish a message saying, "Send me a number to call. I don't like records of these conversations." He literally put in writing that he doesn't want a written record of these conversations.
Yeah, nothing shady or weird going on here amongst the elite of society. For sure not. Yeah.
So how does a billionaire NFL owner respond when 440 mentions of his name show up in the Epstein files? Well, Steve Tish released a statement through the Giants on January 30th, and honestly, I think it may have made things even worse. He said, "We had a brief association where we exchanged emails about adult women, and in addition, we discussed movies, philanthropy, and investments. I did not take him up on any of his invitations, and I never went to..."
Investments on what? Epstein ain't do shit, gang. These rich Jewish niggas just funded him. I don't think he did nothing. Like, I don't even know how he's so rich. How you was so rich, bro.
his island. As we all know, he was a terrible person and someone I deeply regret associating with. Now look, I'm not a lawyer, I'm just some guy that makes sports videos in his house, and I want to be clear that Tish has not been accused of any illegal activity. But calling 440 mentions in the Epstein files a brief association, emails about women being flown in, Epstein giving him reports on how dates went, asking if women are pro or civilian, that's a brief association to him? I mean, this is an extremely out of touch statement to put out. He would have been better off just being quiet. And the fact that he's being dismissive of this situation is just even worse. It's also worth noting that another sports team.
Well, at least they said the girl was in university. She was in college, even though your old ass shouldn't be fucking with no woman that damn young, but at least she was in college. So she wasn't a minor, but we still don't fucking know.
Owner showed up in the files. Josh Harris.
I don't trust these rich billionaires. Like,
who owns the Washington Commanders, the Philadelphia 76ers, and the New Jersey Devils also appeared, but his situation was completely different. The correspondence was through assistants. It was about business meetings when Harris worked at Apollo Global Management, and a spokesman confirmed that Harris never had an independent relationship with Epstein and actually tried to avoid meeting with him, which is night and day from what we're seeing from Tish. This all breaks on a Friday night. Super Bowl week passes by. I mean, there's a reason I'm covering it now and not before the Super Bowl, and I was really hoping that the NFL would say something about it, but it seems like they're avoiding this topic altogether. It wasn't until February 2nd, right before
gang, they ain't doing they ain't doing nothing, gang.
Roger Goodell's annual Super Bowl press conference that the league finally released a statement saying that the league is aware of the reports and Steve's response. Our office will look into the matter to understand the facts. When Goodell was pressed at the podium about whether Steve Tisch could face discipline, he said, "You may be getting ahead of yourself on the second part. We are going to look at all the facts. We're going to look at the context of those and try to understand that. We will look at how that falls under the policy. But let's get the facts first." When asked directly if the NFL was opening an investigation, Goodell stopped short, saying the league needed to gather facts before making that call. Now here's the thing, the NFL's own personal conduct policy says, and this is directly from the rulebook, everyone who is part of the league must refrain from conduct detrimental to the integrity of and public confidence in the NFL. It is not enough simply to avoid being found guilty of a crime in a court of law. The policy also specifically states that ownership and club or league management have traditionally been held to a higher standard and will be subject to more significant discipline when violations of the personal conduct policy occur. Yep. So the league's own policy says that owners should be held to a higher standard, not the same standard. So what has the NFL done to owners in the past who got caught up in messy situations? Well, let me give you some examples of stuff that has happened in the past. Let's run through the receipts here because the NFL has dealt with owner misconduct before, and the pattern isn't exactly encouraging. Jerry Richardson is the former owner of the Carolina Panthers, and he was fined $2.75 million after an investigation found he engaged in workplace misconduct. The league appointed former U.S. Attorney Mary Jo White to investigate. And while the NFL didn't technically force him to sell, Richardson put the team up for sale, and David Tepper bought it for $2.2 billion. So he was essentially pushed out. Dan Snyder and the Washington Commanders saga
2.2 billion? He said 2.2 million or 2.2
billion dollars. So he was essentially pushed out. Dan Snyder and the Washington Commanders saga dragged on for
2.2 billion. That's still kind of cheap though. You know, these teams, they're way more expensive now.
Years, multiple investigations into workplace misconduct, harassment allegations, financial improprieties. Snyder was initially fined $10 million in 2021 and handed day-to-day operations over to his wife Tanya. Eventually, a second investigation led to a $60 million fine, the largest in NFL history at the time. Jim Irsay, the owner of the Colts at the time, publicly said he believed 24 owners would vote to remove Snyder if it came to that. Snyder ultimately sold the team in 2023 rather than face a vote. Jim Irsay himself was suspended for 6 games and fined $500,000 back in 2014 after pleading guilty to a misdemeanor DUI charge. Eddie DeBartolo Jr., the former 49ers owner, was suspended for the entire 1999 season and fined $1 million for his involvement in
Then they hit these owners with crazy fines. God damn.
A gambling-related scandal where he concealed a payment to Louisiana's former governor. And here's the part that really matters. During the Deshaun Watson disciplinary hearings, the NFL Players Association specifically pointed to multiple owners who weren't punished or weren't punished significantly for their own misconduct, including Dan Snyder, Robert Kraft, and Jerry Jones. The union basically argued that the NFL holds players to a way tougher standard than the owners. And when you look at the track record, it's very tough to disagree with them. Dan Wetzel at ESPN made this exact point about Tisch, writing that Goodell should treat a long-standing owner the way he would a random player. But the question is, will he? Because history says
Bro, fine that nigga and suspend him, gang. He's in the Epstein files. I don't give a fuck if he wasn't fucking with no minors, gang. You in the Epstein files. That's so crazy. Look, that nigga need to get suspended and hit with a $1 million fine.
Probably not. So what happens now? Well, here's the reality of the situation. The
Ain't
NFL
nothing
said
happening.
they're going to look into the facts. But as you can see, history indicates that the league doesn't exactly have a track record of moving quickly or aggressively when it comes to punishing owners. The league has no subpoena power. According to NBC Sports, beyond Tisch himself, the NFL may be unable to harvest much additional information. They can't force the women referenced in the emails to cooperate. So while they should investigate, the reality is it might not go anywhere, especially if the league's motivation is to just check the box and move on. But that doesn't mean there won't be consequences. Remember, the personal conduct policy doesn't require a criminal conviction for discipline. The NFL has fined owners in the past, even when no illegal activity occurred. The question is whether Goodell has the backbone to treat this with the same urgency he'd bring to a player situation. If a player's name showed up 440 times in the Epstein files with these kind of emails, do you think the NFL would be casually saying they're going to look at the facts? Well,
No,
it's tough to say because
we gonna
in
look
my
at the
James
facts.
Pierce
Look at the
video
facts
that
of
we
what?
posted before this, I mentioned how the NFL typically won't be too harsh when it comes to discipline, so long as there isn't visual evidence that has tremendous virality throughout the world.
Oh yeah, they ain't gonna do nothing to this nigga too. He gonna still be on the Falcons next year. Them dirty birds. You know I'm a Saints fan. Fuck the Falcons. Fuck Carolina. Fuck Tampa Bay. He's still gonna be on them dirty birds. With domestic violence ass.
And depending on how good that player truly is. When the Ray
Yeah,
Rice
10.5 sacks. They ain't doing nothing to that nigga.
domestic violence scandal happened in 2014, at first the NFL just handed him a 2-day suspension. The moment video evidence came out, Ray Rice's career was over. But Kareem Hunt was also caught on camera, but that was during the beginning of his career, and he was a star running back for the Kansas City Chiefs. He got cut by the Chiefs, but then continued his career with the Browns, and then ended up on the Kansas City Chiefs again. So it really just depends on how big the story is, and this seems like something that could easily be swept under the rug. And here's the bigger picture. The DOJ is still releasing documents. There are over 3 million pages, and more batches are coming. The DOJ even admitted that they discovered over 1 million additional documents after the initial deadline. So there could be even more about Tisch, or potentially other people in the NFL that we haven't seen yet. This story isn't going away. Which brings us to the elephant in the room. The NFL has always had a double standard when it comes to owners versus everyone else. Players get suspended for 6 games for a positive PED test. Coaches get blackballed for bounty scandals, but owners don't really get much. When Deshaun Watson was facing his disciplinary hearings, the NFLPA pointed to Dan Snyder, Robert Kraft, and Jerry Jones as examples of owners who either weren't punished at all or got off with a slap on the wrist. Jimmy Haslam, the Browns owner, faced zero scrutiny from the league for his truck stop company's widespread fraud on customers. The union's argument was simple. You can't throw the book at players while giving owners a pass. And now we've got Steve Tisch, a man worth over $1 billion, who is exchanging emails with a convicted offender about arranging meetings with women, asking whether they're escorts, getting post-date reports, and being invited to Epstein's Island. And 2 weeks later, the NFL still hasn't formally opened an investigation.
They're just looking at the facts.
Compare that to what happened during Super Bowl week. The NFL had to deal with the Tisch Epstein story, the Bad Bunny halftime show backlash, the Bill Belichick Hall of Fame snub controversy, and ongoing labor disputes. It was one of the messiest Super Bowl weeks in recent memory. And yet, instead of getting ahead of the Tisch story, the league let it simmer for an entire weekend before putting out a vague statement. That tells you everything you need to know about how the NFL prioritizes holding its owners accountable. Look, I want to be very clear about something. Steve Tisch has not been charged with any crime. He says he never went to Epstein's Island, and there's no evidence in the released documents that contradicts that specific claim. But what is in the documents paints a picture that, at minimum, is extremely troubling for someone who co-owns one of the most valuable invisible franchises in all of sports. The New York Giants are valued at nearly $5 billion. They play in the biggest media market in
I won't own percentage of an NFL team, but that's fine. I don't want to be a fucking owner, but I won't own like percentage to like 5% or something of a team.
in the country. They just made a $100 million coaching hire. They've got a young roster with legitimate potential.
Damn, 5 year, $100 million for John Harbaugh. Y'all better hope that nigga go back to his old ways and win y'all a Super Bowl. To be honest with you, I got the Giants as my early Super Bowl winners. I ain't gonna lie, they gotta stack this roster, bro. And Malik gonna come back next year. I think they could really win the Super Bowl next year. That's if Jackson Dirt don't have a second year slump.
And now their co-owner is the biggest off-field story in the NFL, and not in a good way. The NFL's
all these niggas need to do is draft Mansur Delane, get a cornerback, draft Mansur Delane or Caleb Downs, and they could make some noise, bro. Like, for real.
personal conduct policy exists for this exact situation. The policy literally says it's not good enough to just avoid being found guilty in court. It says owners are held to a higher standard. So the question is whether Roger Goodell and the other 31 owners are going to enforce their own rules, or whether this becomes another example of the billionaire boys club protecting one of their own. We've seen this movie before with Richardson, we've seen it with Snyder. Both of those situations eventually led to forced sales, but only after years of pressure. Will the same thing happen here, or will the 440 mentions in the Epstein files and emails about arranging meetings with women somehow be swept under the rug? I'll let you decide in the comment section down below. Now, if this is your first time watching one of my videos and you're not subscribed,
make sure y'all subscribe to me, nigga. But this Epstein shit probably just the surface level, my nigga. This shit probably still going on, and I would not be surprised. They probably still fucking on Russian underage girls. You know, they probably don't speak no English. They just prostitutes. Like this Epstein shit probably just surface level. It's probably way more. This probably still happening. But make sure like, comment, subscribe, and I'm out. Deuces.